want to welcome everybody to the DoubleTree here for the 2014 State of the City for the City of Brisbane. My name is Mitch Bull. I'm the President and CEO of the Brisbane Chamber, and my job is really basic. I get to introduce Dan Carter, who's the Chairman of the Board, who will introduce you to our speakers tonight. Dan, come on up.
Hello, everyone. I am Dan Carter. I am currently the Chairman of the Board for the Brisbane Chamber, which is a nice title. Mitch and Allison do all the work, and I get the title. I'd like to welcome you all here for this annual State of the City event. This is our third one we've held moved to the evenings. We used to have it during the day, and we're hoping to get a better turnout, and I think it's working pretty well, so thank you guys for coming out. I know it's hard for people to get out during the day. Besides, who wants to miss work? We actually had to reschedule this, you guys know, because there was a seventh game of that World Series thing, and I know a lot of you wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have been here for that. But tonight we're excited to hear what Mayor Conway and City Manager Holstein are going to share with us. I'd like to also thank South San Francisco Scavenger Company. They're our event sponsor. Thank you guys, and they support a lot of things in this town. Thank you guys a lot. Before we get started, I got to introduce some VIPs. First of all, we have our Honorable Mayor Clark Conway's here. Our council members we have here are Ray Miller's here tonight. Cliff Lentz is out there. Lori Liu. And our Mayor Pro Tem, Terry O'Connell. Our wonderful and lovely Police Chief, Lisa Macias. North County Fire Chief and handsome Ron Meyer. And then we have some of our representative from local political offices. We have Corey Walbach, which I met tonight. He's from the office of Senator Jerry Hill. He's out here. We have Mark Nagala's office of Representative Jackie Spear here tonight. Out there. And Lorraine Simmons' office of Supervisor Adrian Tissier. And then I'd like to have, if I could, for the Chamber of Commerce board members to please stand and introduce yourselves, please. Come on, guys. I know you're out there.
Christopher Bill Mythology. Murray Michelle Murray Company.
I won't move. Okay, we'd also like to thank the DoubleTree Hotel and Zeebeck Restaurants for their assistance with the planning of this event this evening and the wonderful presentation of appetizers and everything out there. Thank you guys very much for that. They always do a great job. All of us at the Chamber support what the City Council and the staff do each and every day to serve our community. When we moved the event to the evening last year, we hoped to give the community a greater opportunity to attend this important event. And as you see, it's turned out well tonight. At this point, and thankfully, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our mayor, the Honorable Clark Conway, who will start the presentation. Mr. Mayor.
You had to raise it up a little bit. Sorry, Dan. I got a couple VIPs with me tonight. My granddaughters, Lafi and Kalani.
They asked me, how come nobody sits in the front? This is like school. Yes, it is. So if you feel like you need to move up, if I'm not, loud enough or anything, come on up. It's okay. Promise. Clay doesn't bite. Not on, what day is this? Wednesday. Let me take that, sure. Thank you. Okay. State of the City, I stood up here 4 years ago, and Larry Purcell introduced me. And if you don't know Larry, he's a highly optimistic guy, and he says, great news, the recession is over. And everybody just looked at him stone-faced, especially me, When I got up, I said, wow, it must be coming from the East Coast on a very slow train. Well, it has arrived. Okay, so things are much better today than it was 4 years and 1 month ago. As Dan indicated, we put the meeting off because it was the potential the Giants might be in the World Series and it might go to the 7th game. Boy, great sage advice that was, because nobody would have showed up. Not even Clay. We had bets going. Sorry, Lisa, there was no money involved. It was just, fun bets. So anyway, I'll go over some of the fun stuff that we have coming up and some of the stuff that we've accomplished, and then Clay will go over all the boring stuff that business people don't care about, like money, finances, those types of things. So anyway, some upcoming projects that we have. We have a beautiful marina where the hotel is. Our plans is to start dredging on that next year. So hopefully we get that down back to an acceptable depth. I think we're looking at 9 foot. And we're also rehabbing our swimming pool. It's been 15 years now. 15 years. We opened the doors in 2000. And so this is 2014, but by the time we get started and ended, it'll be 15 years. We have a skate park. Currently, people come into Brisbane, you see a lot of kids skating around. Well, we're going to rehab that. We're looking at redoing the skate park where it's at currently. And it's going to have a lot of nice new features and stuff like that, maybe some old ones too, but they're going to be updated. And a not so popular thing is the water and sewer project, but from a city perspective, it's a much needed $5 million capital improvement. With that, we're going to be, I don't know if you understand our water system here in Brisbane, but we don't actually do sewage treatment, so you don't see a sewage treatment plant in Brisbane, but we do pump it to San Francisco, and they do it there. And a number of years ago, we used to have storm water that will infiltrate into the sewage system. Well, we pay by the gallon when we pump it to San Francisco, so we had to do a lot of repairs on that. And in the meantime, we had to put an 8-inch, what they call force main, on the outside, and now that has to be put underground because it's reached its useful life, and we don't want sewage going anywhere. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing. And another thing, we're going to be doing our SCADA, S-C-A-D-A, and Clay can explain that if he can remember, because I sure can't right now. But it's a communication system that basically tells our public works that the water tanks are low, if something's happened, if a motor's gone out. It's basically a safety system that is required for our water system. And there's a couple other upgrades that we're going to be doing for fire and things like that. So we have some public works projects, and we're going to be looking at floating bonds for that, and that's in the works right now. So over a period of 20 years, we have a capital improvement project on our water and sewer system. But as of yet, we haven't really identified funds for storm drain. And Brisbane being on the side of a hill, water's going to come down whether you like it or not. But you like to have it go someplace, and you like to be able to direct it. In the old days, and Dolores Gomez is here, and she'll remember in the old days you had gutters, and if you didn't have a gutter there, it's going through your house and with the trees and everything else. So, the old days in Brisbane were quite exciting. You could ride a log from the top down to the bottom. We also, some of the things that we've approved recently, the South San Francisco Scavengers who donated the food and stuff tonight. We approved a contract with them, franchise agreement. And one of the things that they're going to be doing is initiating what's called an anaerobic digester, which takes organic material like food and, yard waste and stuff like that, and basically break it down, and then they're going to reclaim the methane gas from it and put it in their trucks. And it's just kind of a closed loop cycle of how to get rid of this material so that it doesn't go into a landfill. So that's an exciting thing that's going to come up. One of the things we just have to solve is how to keep our raccoons out of it. Brisbane, if you don't live here, you know that we have quite an active wildlife here, and that's the animals, not the people. So anyway, some of the things that we have working with is our economic development, and Lori Liu and Cliff Lentz are our economic development subcommittee, and they have a host and a list of stuff that they want to work on. One of the things that they want to do is improve community amenities and services available, identify ourselves as an environmentally sensitive community. I think we've kind of done that over the years. We want to assure better communications with existing businesses. And, I served on that subcommittee and with Mitch, and we've kind of been working on that through the years. And some of the things that we found out, that some of the brokers out there had a real negative outlook on Brisbane, and we're trying to really change that so that we can kind of bring home some real good businesses, that give us a good solid financial base. And we're also looking at, having a dedicated staff to help drive this economic development. And right now that's kind of up in the air, but it's something that we're certainly looking at. And other projects that we've worked on, environmental impact report for the Baylands. This has been 10 years now? Something along those lines. We received comments, finally got the draft environmental impact report done, and so we received comments on that, and those are being reviewed now by the consultant, and that's taken him a while because we've got quite a few comments on that. I think, how many books was that? 14? Something like that. Anyway, we completed our history book. It's not gone to print yet. We're doing one more final read through, and Ray Miller and I are working on that, and that's the second 25 years of Brisbane. And that was completed in 2011. So almost 3 years ago. But, it's taken a while. When it's done, it'll be done, and there'll be colored pictures. Actually, it's a pop-up book, so thought we'd make it real useful. And what else we got? We approved a public arts ordinance, and this is where, businesses pay 1%, not current businesses, but, people want to upgrade buildings or build new buildings, they'd pay 1% towards public arts. And the Parks and Rec Commission is working to develop implementation guidelines for this. So this is an exciting thing, and council wants all segments of the community to participate in this, because public art's a great thing. There's a lot of companies that volunteer, making their own public art when they build a building, and it's a special place. It makes things special when you have that, and you see around the Bay Area and other cities and stuff, you look at something like, well, that's weird, and then you kind of look at it, well, it's kind of cool, and then it grows on you. So we're excited about that. And I want to do, we've had improved outreach on efforts with our social media tools, which is, called user voice forums. We got a lot of feedback with the economic development. We do Facebook. We even have a Twitter account. Now, personally, I don't use any of these. I stay away from them. I worked in technology for 35 years, and I just don't want to go there. But as a city, it's fine. But personally, I don't want to go there. And We recently approved a bulk solar purchase program for our residents and employees who work in Brisbane. And this is an exciting project, that Foster City has kind of initiated this, and this is where you can get an economy of scale prices, by going out to companies with all these different cities saying, people signing up and say, I'd like to have solar, and then, you can get a special price on that. And so it's a good way of bringing solar, into your homes or on top of your homes, I guess you could say. But we're excited about this and hope that it really works out well. So we're looking at that, and being a green city, I think we're the second city in the state of California to adopt a green ordinance, which our green ordinance is a moving target. It's something that's always going to be upgraded, so. And at that point, let's see, I'm done. And I'm going to have Clay come up here, and he's going to do a slideshow. And it's not a pop-up slideshow, but it's going to show some of the finances that we have. You could take notes if you like. This is all public information. So as far as that goes, I'm finished with this. And Clay, I'm going to have you come up and do your part. And if you have any questions at the end, just ask Clay. No. That's why we hired him.
Is that good? I know it's good for you. It's good back there. Okay, so we'll just go to the slide. So I am going to spend just a few minutes talking about city finances. And, over the last few years, if you've been coming to these events, we've spent a fair amount of time kind of walking through some of the financial issues the city was dealing with out of the 2008 recession, and some of the strategies that we had to kind of get through that period of time. As the mayor has indicated, certainly the financial condition of the city is significantly improved in the last year and a half, and that has allowed us to start addressing some of the pent-up needs. The mayor went through some of those things like the pool and some of the other maintenance issues that the city has, buildings and whatnot. In terms of revenues, it is largely a good news picture. We've got three columns here, what our revenues were prior to the recession of 2008, what their low point basically in 2011 were, and then where we're at this year. So you can see, like in property tax, which is one that is, property tax is always considered kind of a recession, not necessarily proof, but a recession, not something you're going to get really hit hard with in a recession. But even this, with the magnitude of that recession, we had an almost 10% loss in revenue from property taxes for our city's general fund. We've largely recovered that, showing just actually a slight increase over where we were from 2008. The interesting thing, though, is that if you think about 2008, that's 6 years ago, where we would have expected to be today at that time, you would have added that approximately $20,000 a year, so times by 6, you probably expect to be at around $2.2 million, and we're about $2 million. So the impacts of the 2008 recession in terms of city finances, and I don't think we're unique in this, is one of those events that from which you really truly never do recover. You get back to a certain point and you start building from there, but life is never quite the same. Our sales tax is a kind of a totally different story, and we've talked about that quite a bit over the years. We had a company here in town that left a few years ago, and that's why we had a fairly robust sales tax there of about $4.4 million. Prior to the recession, we had that company in town. I'm not allowed to say the company's name, but it's 3 letters, and they're in the pharmaceutical business. Anyway, they left, and they took about $2 million worth of revenue away when they left. But you can see right now we're at about $2.4 million. I think the finance director had projected somewhere around $2 million in the budget in the last, I'm not sure this year, but maybe the year before. So the sales tax is starting, and we're starting to see the sales tax starting to come back pretty significantly. We don't have a lot of kind of typical sales tax in Brisbane with kind of a retail that you think of at a mall or something like that. We don't have that kind of sales tax. We have what's called business-to-business sales tax. Company like Buy Right, I don't think they're here tonight, but they're a kind of a classic example of a type of business-to-business revenue stream where they're selling to other businesses and they're providing a sales tax because they're based here in Brisbane. So we think that our sales tax base will continue to grow. Our business license obviously is where we've had the big significant increase, and that is because of a voter-approved business license tax on waste hauling businesses that generate over a certain number of tons of garbage a year. That has impacted primarily Recology, who is here tonight, so we always want to thank them. They're a great business to have here in Brisbane. Our expenditure side, as you can see, expenditures are kind of an interesting phenomenon, because as you sometimes think that, well, you're cutting back number of personnel and you're going to reduce your expenditure significantly, but you also have, at the same time that you're cutting back number of people, you're having increases in health care, PERS costs, things of that nature. I think if you look at the final column there under expenditures and you see it jumps up to 15 million, a lot of what's driving that is that this year we really got caught up in a lot of capital stuff, and we also added 4 new police officers, so we have added some additional staff. And if you look down at I'll skip past reserves and I'll come back to that in a minute, but if you look down at personnel, you see that we went, a 20% reduction in number of city staff from pre-recession to 2011. We went from about 100 down to 80. We're back up to 85. That may grow a little bit, but I don't think we'll ever see a day that we get back to 100, at least not, as we know Brisbane today in terms of the size of the town and the number of citizens we serve. So it's a very different organization and a very different sort of service delivery model that we have today than what we had back in the pre-recession period of time. The really good news, and the one that helps me sleep at night and helps, I think, the council sleep at night, and certainly know that my finance director is thrilled about it, is that our reserves, our general fund, and we're talking about just the general fund here, are now back above where they were when we went into the 2008 recession. We have a policy in the city to maintain our fund balance in the general fund at no less than $5 million. We got to 0.7, 0.5. I think we may have actually gotten less than that at one point. But we have now seen that kind of recover. So that is definitely good news. Now, one of the things that we're doing this year in our work plan is that we're looking at a variety of different long-term liabilities of the city, and so that may eat into that number a little bit. And we're also, as I think Councilmember Miller referred to it as, we're going to get a little bit more sophisticated in the way we set up our reserves. Right now, we just have a flat number that's there to represent all of the needs of the city. I think we're now going to kind of try to identify specific events that we might think might happen, such as a natural disaster, having a certain amount of money set aside for that, and for different kinds of things that we can foresee might potentially happen. So basically the news is good. So I'm going to see a bunch of smiles on everybody's face. I know I'm happy about this. When you look at reserves like this and kind of a revenue picture like this, there's a lot of things that the city has responsibility over, and I think the biggest kind of trauma that we went through in the 2008 period of time forward was that we just weren't able to address things that we needed to address, and we're starting to be able to do that now and getting on top of some of our maintenance stuff. We had a lot of built up staffing issues, particularly in the police department, and we've been able to address that. So, money can go fairly fast, but we're, I think, committed to trying to keep fairly healthy reserves, be in a position that if a 2008 event, God help us, happens again, we have a sufficient amount of reserves to try to deal with it. But for now, things are good, and we are starting to address, like, as the mayor indicated, a number of projects and stuff that I think are going to be of benefit to all of us who live, and certainly all the people who also work here in town. So with that, let's It's kind of the presentation, and I guess the mayor and I are available for any questions.
No, he wants you to answer all the questions.
Well, I know that's what he said, but it depends on how you ask the question. Going. Colleen?
Could you please address the reduction in personnel and whether that reduction has been accomplished by using independent contractors to provide those services? Or whether it's just been attrition and not replacing certain employees?
Yeah, so, and we went through this kind of extensively last year. What we did was that we, around 2008, 2009, we sat down with all of our department heads and department managers and ultimately with all our employees and got a sense of when people were planning on retiring or leaving for other reasons. And we started to look at kind of our core services in terms of what it's going to take to continue to operate a police department, a fire department, and all our services. And we put together a staffing plan that we said we're going to phase into over a period of up to 5 years. We actually, I think, met most of our staffing reductions in a shorter period of time than that. So it was primarily done through voluntary separations. We did not lay anybody off, but we also did it strategically enough to maintain the services that we were doing. Obviously, there's only so far you can go in terms of staffing in something like police department or fire department. And in terms of contracting out, I think we probably did do some contracting like in public works and the maintenance areas, but we didn't use that as a strategy extensively. It was kind of a little bit more on the margins.
That answer?
Kind of. Kind of.
You have something more specific that you want to?
Well, were there just, I wrestle with if we had 100 full-time employees and we can do with 85, how things are getting done. So it was mostly all public works, or was it just across the board where everyone said you're going to have to do cutbacks?
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
yeah, sure.
verify how that
Well, I've got a wonderful brochure that I can get to you because we handed it out last year. We kind of laid out the strategies that we used department by department and what some of the impacts were. We did not do a blanket. We didn't do one of those things where we went to everybody and said, okay, everybody's budget minus 10%, because my experience with that is that just doesn't work. So I think we were much more strategic about it as where we thought we could cut back further, what things we thought we could put either on the back burner or just stop doing, and what things we felt like we had to continue doing. And for example, in the fire department, we reduced the number of personnel by 3, but we increased our overtime budget because you have minimum staffing that you have to do. So we ended up saving money by reducing by 3, but we had to also put extra money into the budget to do overtime to bring people back so that we had met our minimum staffing levels. So there was things of that nature, and every department was a little bit different, and every service is a little bit different. I mean, obviously your public safety services, there's an absolute minimum number of people you're going to have on at any one particular time. There's other services you can kind of say, okay, we're not going to do certain things for a year or two. But even those things start to catch up with you. But I'll get you that brochure because it lays all that out.
I have one other question.
Sure.
If you don't mind addressing it. Under the capital improvements or bonds being issued, and I'm not asking for a dissertation, but just in general, is that including and addressing the vulnerability we have if we have a major earthquake and that our water and sewer system is very vulnerable? Because with that kind of reserve, if we had a catastrophic event, it seems like we're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case scenario, you could have a catastrophic event, and you're not only dealing with, it's a really good question. I mean, so from a municipal perspective, I mean, you're not only dealing with all the costs that are involved with cleanup and also maybe fixing and repairing facilities that get damaged, but almost invariably, you're going to have a loss of revenue because the businesses are not doing what they were doing before. So you get kind of a double whammy there. Some of the capital improvement projects that we're doing will make the system better and more fortified so that it can withstand some of the natural disaster. Of course, in this area, we're always concerned about earthquake, and we've done some things in that actually the last 10 years, I think, to try to address the earthquake fitness for a number of our water and sewer facilities. So that's kind of an ongoing issue.
Well, is there a line missing here, or whatever, because if you look at the revenues, you have 7,000,001 in 2014, and then we show an expenditure line of 15, so it's $8 million. Put more out than coming in. Is there other revenue lines that we're not seeing in? Are these only the major ones, or are we drawing from other reserves to help pay the $15 million?
So those three revenues are probably, well, not probably, they are our three largest revenues in the city. There is one other revenue source that's not up there that is a major revenue for us, and it's the what we call the transient occupancy tax or hotel tax. And that's generating about $2 million a year. And it's actually been on the upswing, been much stronger now than it has been at any time in our history, frankly. General fund reserves. Well, do you have reserves in your water and sewer utility funds? We have it in our marina fund. I mean, any fund that the city has, and those are probably the three major ones, unless I'm forgetting something. You run some sort of reserves, and we have a policy basically that establishes kind of minimum reserves in all our funds.
We'll come back to you, Tony. I think,
Yeah, I'm sorry. There is a number of revenue pieces in there. These were just meant to be. We didn't expect anybody to do the math. Okay, this is just to reflect kind of the major revenue sources. Yeah, please don't add this.
You guys met Larry before? He's always doing the math.
Yeah.
Jennifer and then Diane, and come back to Tony.
I was just curious, the mayor was talking about surveillance, and he said that the draft EIR was complete, and it was like 14 months of comment, and people could review it. What happens next? Is something coming for the public for us to vote on, or what's kind of the next part of the journey?
We could be here for a couple hours on that one.
The final, it'd be the final draft EIR, that they call the FEIR. It's with the response to all the comments, and then, at that, but the council had what we call a white paper, and we kind of had about 10 minutes of discussion on why they call it a white paper, because they put it on white paper, That was, but Clay may have some details.
Yeah, I mean, the next step in that process is a final EIR will come out. You do not redo the past process. You don't send it out for comments again. It's kind of a final document. And then it starts the process that will go to the Planning Commission, ultimately the City Council, and then invariably it will go to the voters on whatever. There's not a timeline per se. I think there's an anticipation that that will start next year in terms of going to the Planning Commission and should get to the City Council sometime in 15 or 16, and we'll see what happens from there.
Either Terry or Cliff would be mayor, or maybe Lori.
My guess, Lori.
Diane, and then we'll come back to you, Tony. Diane? Oh, okay, Tony.
Clay, do you have all the extensive financial data on the city's website?
Yes, we do. I believe we just uploaded our the budget and brief that we do every year. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jumana, and I'm with the Better Business Bureau. I went to a couple of weddings and one bridal shower for a lot of people in Brisbane that were invited to these two functions. And they had a lot of wonderful things to say about your police department, so my hat's off to you.
Well, that's, might want to talk about that as one of the places where we really kind of beefed up, because our police department was actually running at a critical edge, and so we've hired 4 new officers it's really made a difference recently, just in what we've seen in local crime rate has really dropped down because they were able to go out and do some real good work and arrest some key figures that were, committing some local crimes. So, it's really worked out well.
Yeah, that's right.
Gentleman in the back there, did you have your hand up? No? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, first I was going to look at the revenue side, and I think should list the major part instead of the smaller part of the major revenue side, because this is very small to think that we cover $15 million, $55 million. So, what is the major revenue?
What is what?
The source, the major.
Of other revenue sources?
Yeah.
Okay, so at least next year I'm going to make a note that I'm going to make this add up. Even if I just have a catch-all category. So roughly 2 million of it is the transient occupancy tax, the hotel tax. And then we have things like the fees that people pay for going to the pool or using the community center. So we have all of our fee-based in there. Drawing a blank as to what other major categories we might have. Yeah. I didn't realize you guys were so attentive to the detail. Yeah, well, again, part of it is that $15 million expenditure actually has about $1 million more than what our revenue anticipated is for this year because we're trying to catch up on a number of things. So that actual revenue picture number would be down probably, I think, around in the high 13s. $2 million, again, is from the hotel tax. We have fees, we have a variety of different other kinds of things. There's some transfers that get into the budget from other funds that pay for personnel from, let's say, from the water and sewer fund that are providing services. So there's a lot of kind of accounting numbers that go in there, but in terms of actual revenue sources, these are the major revenue sources that we get.
Does the city get much from developers?
Pardon me?
Does the city get much from developers?
Hold on, Tony, let him finish and then we'll come back.
So, so you're saying that the expenditure is $13 million? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think what I said was the expenditures or the,
What are the revenues that we have coming in compared to the expenditures? Can we just?
yeah, we're within $1 million.
So do
Yeah.
we make more in revenues than expenditures?
This particular year, we had about $1 million more in expenditures, and again, a lot of that was one-time expenditures to get caught up. The mayor mentioned the pools, kind of a major one, but there's a bunch of other items that were in the budget that are one-time expenditures.
So basically, you're saying that we have 14 million, if we were going to just round it off, 14 million is what we got in this year, 15 million is what we paid out.
Roughly,
Just
roughly. Yeah, in terms of a budget, there's always the budget you do at the beginning of the
Yeah.
year, and then you reconcile at the end.
I think one of the most important
Larry-
points that
Larry,
we're going to look at is that reserve line, because that's where cities get in trouble. They don't have the reserve, so we know mathematically up above, there's got to be lines to fill in and make that. And
Right.
The city's council sits there and look and say, we've got $12 million worth of kitty. There's other stuff to fiddle down there, but that's an actual number. That's pulled out of the books. If that is our kitty or
Right.
reserve, that's a critical number for the city. So that's a very strong statement.
Right, it's the reserve number is ultimately reflective of the monies that are coming in and going out on an annual basis. So when you see that reserve number go down, then that's a negative trend, and when you see it come back up, that's a positive trend, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Tony, you have another question?
Oh, I was just asking Clay if we're getting much from developers.
We have, the major development we have in town, as everyone knows, is with Universal Paragon Corporation, And that is essentially structured where they pay the city for the expenses that we have to go out. So in other words, when we have the environmental consultants on board, there's a little bit in there for city staff time, so that's kind of a revenue source to the general fund. But it's basically a wash. So money that comes in is there to pay for expenses that go out. So it's not a money maker for the city. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend anybody to get into the development processing business to make a buck, unless you're a consultant on the outside doing the services.
Anybody else? Anya?
Could you mention the electric car charging station?
Sure. We have an electric car charging station out here at the marina that was paid for by a boater. He has an electric car and he wanted to have a charging station, so he paid for it to have it installed. Ray Miller and I are a subcommittee, a facility subcommittee. We're also looking at putting a charging station in Brisbane, and we want to work in conjunction with the shopping center and put our first charging station there. So that way it's available to a lot of people that come in and do business down there. So we figured that would probably be the best place to start. Anybody else? There's no games tonight, you know, there's no basketball, football, baseball season's really over. Other questions? Okay.
Here, let's get this little thing in here again.
Giving tickets to the Giants game in June 2014.
Yes, here we go. So actually, we would like to invite Clay back up here, Clark up here, and I think Ron's here from South City Scavenger. Could you come up also, sir? Paul, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. So we would like to present certificates of appreciation for each of you gentlemen. Grateful for your knowledge and your speaking at the State of the City. Thank you very much. Here, let's go this way.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clay. Thank you, sir. And South City Scavenger, who does supports so many of our events here. I can't go too far because I'm on a leash here. Sorry, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Towards the screen, away from the light.
Go into the light.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Wow. I thought she was going for a record there.
Keeps going up, Terry.
Yep. All right. That was a nice event, everybody. I'd like to thank everyone for attending the event, of course, tonight. I'd like to, again, say thank you to the Doubletree and Zeebeck restaurant. And then I'd like to say we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming.